He clasps the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lowly lands. Ringed with the azure world he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. Namaste and welcome to yet another episode of Indic Roots. Today we shall listen to the story of Garuda, the king of birds. Rishi Kashyapa had two wives, Kadru and Vinata. Pleased with his wives, he gave them a boon each. Kadru asked for 1,000 sons who would be Nagas, while Vinata asked for two very powerful sons. Kashyapa granted them the boons and went to the forest to practice asceticism. After 500 years, Kadru's eggs hatched and out came her 1,000 serpent sons in great splendor and strength. But nothing came out of Vinata's two eggs. Anxious and zealous, Vinata deliberately broke one egg. Out came her first son, Arun. Sadly though, his lower part was still underdeveloped. Angry at his mother's impatience, he caused her to suffer slavery for 500 years. Subsequently, he advised his mother to nurture the other egg for another 500 years, for from that egg would rise a son who would be incomparable in valor. Aruna then flew away to serve as the charioteer of Surya, the sun god. One day, Kadru and Vinata were strolling along the seashore when they saw Uchchaishrava, the horse that was obtained during Samudra Manthan. The two sister wives got into a debate about the color of the horse's tail. Kadru declared it was black, while Vinata proclaimed it white. They decided to return the next day to get a closer look at the color of the tail. Whoever lost the wager would become a slave of the other for 500 years. That night, Kadru summoned her sons and informed them of the challenge that she had entered with and ordered her sons to save their mother from the ignominy of slavery to their stepmother. Some of the serpent sons decided to obey Kadru, and when Kadru and Vinata crossed the mighty ocean to see Uchchaishrava from close quarters the next morning, they hung on to the horse's tail. As a result, from a distance, the horse's tail appeared black. Vinata accepted defeat and became a slave of Kadru for 500 years. Meanwhile, Rishi Kashyapa was performing a sacrifice and ordered his son Indra to bring some arani or special fuel for sacrifices. As Indra set out to obey his father's wishes, he chanced upon the Valakilya rishis who are powerful but tiny as the measure of a thumb, carrying a small twig together as their contribution to Rishi Kashyapa's sacrifice. However, while carrying that twig, they accidentally fell into a pit formed by the hoof of a cow, and Indra could not help laughing at their predicament. Angered by Indra's pride and show of disrespect, the Valakilya set themselves to perform a sacrifice to create another, more powerful Indra. Now, worried at the possibility of losing his position of supremacy, Indra sought his father's help. Rishi Kashyapa requested the Valakilya to desist from creating another Indra, as that would undermine Brahma, the creator himself, who had already created an Indra and vested all power in him. The Valakilya agreed, but their sacrifices could not go in vain. Rishi Kashyapa rescued the situation by declaring that the sacrifice by the Valakilya would yield another Indra, the Indra of the birds. This bird would be a ranger of the sky and more powerful than the king of gods himself. At the end of 500 years, Vinata's second egg hatched to reveal Garuda, strong and resplendent like the burning sun. Born to a slave, Garuda was also treated as one by his step-brothers, the serpents, who began to order Garuda to perform menial tasks. At this, Garuda was greatly offended and asked his mother on why they were treated thus by Kadru and her sons. Vinata sorrowfully narrated the story of how she came to live the life of serfdom. Eager to rescue his mother, Garuda inquired of the Nagas, "What can I do that you set me and my mother free?" The Nagas thought this to be a good opportunity to get rid of this powerful stepbrother and declared they would settle for nothing less than the nectar of immortality. If Garuda could bring them Amrutam, they would immediately set him and Vinata free. Garuda then set out on the task of bringing the nectar. As the brave bird embarked on his noble quest, he met Rishi Kashyapa, his father, who inquired about his welfare. Garuda replied that he was hungry. Rishi Kashyapa directed him to a certain lake on the banks of which lived an elephant and a tortoise who were always fighting with each other. He revealed that these creatures were brothers and sages in an earlier life. The elder brother was called Vibhavasu and the younger one was called Supratika. Caught in a dispute about the family property, they ended up cursing each other to the animal form and life that they were now leading. But even as animals, they could not rid themselves of their mutual animosity. Rishi Kashyapa advised Garuda to eat these two huge animals to appease his hunger and rid the earth of their acrimony. Garuda found the hostile brothers, carried them in his mighty claws, but could not find a perch strong enough for him where he could eat his meal in peace. A huge banyan tree proudly invited Garuda to sit on one of its branches. But even that huge branch collapsed once the mighty eagle sat on it. As the branch was falling to the ground, Garuda's keen eyesight spotted the Valakilya that were hanging from the branch. He swooped down to catch the branch in time, thus saving the rishis who blessed him as the carrier of heavy weight. After completing his meal, Garuda once again set off on his mission. As Indra saw Garuda approach, he asked all the devas to save the Amritam from the mighty bird. But the devas were no match for Garuda. Garuda took the Amritam and soared above on his return journey without taking even a sip of the divine nectar. At this time, pleased by the unselfish and noble spirit of the eagle, Lord Vishnu offered him a boon. Garuda requested that he stay on top of even Lord Vishnu, the god of all gods, and be immortal, free from disease and decay. Vishnu granted him his request and installed Garuda on the dhwaja or the flagstaff of his chariot, thus allowing him to be on top of the Lord himself. Garuda also offered Lord Vishnu a boon, to which the latter asked him to become his carrier. As Garuda made his way home, Indra made a final attempt to stop him by hurling his weapon, the thunderbolt, at him. To respect the mighty weapon made from the bones of the great sage Dadichi, Garuda shed a feather from his wings, earning him the name Suparna, the one with a beautiful plumage. Finally, recognizing the strength of the great bird, Indra requested him not to give the nectar to the vicious and cruel serpents. Together, they hatched a plan. Garuda returned home and announced the arrival of the Amritam to the serpents, placing it on a mat made of the kusha grass. The Nagas immediately released him and Vinata from bondage as per their promise. Before consuming the holy nectar, they went to perform their customary ablutions, at which time Indra arrived in the guise of a Brahmin and took away the Amritam. Not understanding the deception, the serpents began to lick the kusha grass on which the bowl was kept, hoping to get a taste of the divine drink. It is said that this act of licking the sharp blades of grass has resulted in the snakes having a forked tongue. Also, the kusha grass itself is regarded as holy as the nectar was kept on it. Pleased with Garuda, Indra blessed that he would henceforth empower any snake that would come across him. Released from the humiliation of slavery, Garuda went on to become the king of birds, the arch rival of the serpents, and the vehicle of Lord Vishnu.